friends. I thought I would do a soft-spoken little ramble update for you. I know a lot of people like my rambles. Thank you. And so I thought I would do a little ramble update. Because I was gone for a few months, just a few, maybe a lot of months. Where I'm living in the US, it kind of felt pointless, futile, any of those words to spend time making YouTube videos while everything that's going on here is going on. But it's spring, so birds are singing, and I have decided we can't just live in fear of tomorrow. We can't just live in fear of today, and we have to sometimes just do things because we like doing them and not for any other reason. So here I am in my cat trailer. I'm trying to use my hair to block out the sun because it is still the middle of the day. I just filmed a quick, I think it's like a 5-6 minute it's a whisper, an audible whisper, compliments kind of video that I think I'm going to upload shortly. I don't know how people feel about inaudible whispers. I know that style of video seems to be a lot easier for me to just, do. A lot less thinking, I think. It's more natural of a style for me. So I'm probably going to start incorporating those, but I wasn't sure if people would want there to be a theme to those, if they'd want an inaudible ramble, or what. So there's that for you. I'm very excited though, because in the same vein of sometimes you just gotta do what makes you happy, I finally went and got this bad boy back. Some of my older subscribers will remember that, a while ago I had one, and I had it up until 2 years ago, when in the course of like 3 days, I bit it, my dog smacked me in the face real hard, and then I bit it again, and my lip swelled so bad that even my extra long jewelry for while it's healing, and I actually used to wear like extra long jewelry, like past what they give you for the healing stage, because I thought it looked nice on my face. It was so swollen I had to take it out, and it healed up, and then I just never really got around to re-piercing it, and then I had a whole fiasco where 3 days ago now, I went to a local shop that a bunch of people had recommended to me. Said, oh yeah, this guy's great, you want to go there, if you want to go local, definitely go there. And I don't think you can see it on this one, but you can definitely see up here, like, what the hell kind of placement is that for an eyebrow? Like, that was pretty much like I don't know. It was bad placement, and so within an hour of getting the piercings, I took both the eyebrow and the lip out, and some of my friends recommended me to a different shop a little bit farther away, like an hour and a half away, which isn't too bad. Where I live in the Midwest, an hour and a half is like a 30-minute drive, if you're living in like a city kind of thing, if you know what I mean. Like, a 30-minute drive, it's not right down the road, but it's also not like, oh wow, that's a long drive. It's like, oh, that's, a little bit of an extra drive, but it's doable. And she did a really good job, and I think I'm going to go back and get angel bites, because when I was younger, I used to have a very noticeable mole here. You can still kind of see it, but it's faded over the years, and so I think instead I will just get angel bites, because I really like those. I'm also getting probably an industrial, redoing my third, and going back up to a 00, because 00 is the size I want it to be, and then during my move, I lost all my 00 jewelry, and I only had, I believe it's 0 is the size below that, and that's what I had in my ears now, because it was either go down a size or lose them altogether, and I did not want to start over from a ear piercing, because, fun fact, I've gone all the way up to a 00 before and gotten it back down to just a normal piercing, so didn't want to start over. So but now they've been like this long enough that they're trying to re-stretch themselves. So I ordered myself some new jewelry because I am very picky. I wear natural stones. Like, this is hematite, I think. I might be making that up. Howlite. Maybe it's that. I feel like it starts with an H. But I only wear like amethyst, stuff like that. Like natural stones cut for those. Because I feel like everything else just really irritates my skin more than it should, and it's just not worth the hassle of fighting my body, and my body seems to like natural stone jewelry, so I'm gonna go with that. I do feel bad that I disappear for weeks and months and years on end sometimes, but I feel like when I do that, it's because I pressure myself into churning out videos. I say churning out, I was doing like one a week, but where I'm working so much, and between a day job and apprenticing to sew leather, and I have all my pets and just all the things I'm doing, even one a week started to be like, oh shit, and then I missed a week, and then I felt guilty because I was behind, and then I just couldn't bring myself to make videos. And I do that with friends too. I have a friend who's in a rehabilitation center. He's an older guy, and he had a stroke and still can't move half his body, and I told him I'd visit once a week, and that I was struggling to even make once a month, and then I missed a month entirely, and then I felt so bad that I haven't been back in a couple, which is bad. It's really bad. I'm telling on myself right now because it's bad. And I was planning to go today, and I had actually left to go today, and I had driven to the gas station because my car was almost out of gas, and when I got there, because I live in the South, apparently everything's closed on Easter, including gas stations. Wild. So I went to go turn around, drive back down the hill towards the other gas station, and on my way there, I saw, hopping into a ditch, one of the dogs that lives here on farm. So instead it turned into bring this dog back to farm, and then by the time that was all said and done, I think we're butting up to needing to load horses into a trailer, and so I was like, well, I guess I'll go tomorrow. But as it goes. Which, it's been going good, all things considering. Like, if you heard that, that was a horse right outside the trailer. I do have a lot going on, but I feel like it's gonna get better soon. Like, I feel like this happens every spring, where, again, suddenly the birds are chirping, and then all my creative juices are like, hey, you're not just a goblin, don't just sit in a corner, maybe do some things with your ideas. And I had a bunch of ideas come to me this morning, and one of them was for a role play of like kind of like construction, interior design role play, like designing, like being the designer, helping you design your new house. I think that'd be fun. So I guess a little bit of like a spoiler, but that is something I've been planning to film for 2 years now. It's been like on my mind. I also I have a lot of ideas for when I can do voiceovers again, like when I can actually just use my phone as a camera and then grab my Blue Yeti. Like, I'd love to take you on kind of like a backstage tour of a Renaissance festival. That'd be fun, I think. Or maybe meeting some of the horses here, meeting some of the goats, but it's very loud on farm, and so I would need to do a voiceover because I think that would be chaotic, unless that is something you'd like. It's just the natural ambiance of a farm, walking around, meeting everybody, and it would be a little bit of a shaky cam, but I suppose that goes with the territory. I was thinking about that kind of because there's a medium-ish sized YouTuber I've been listening to for over a decade now, Yang Hai Yang. She doesn't, it's like unintentional ASMR. She's this sweet Asian lady, little old Asian lady living in California, I think it is. And she does a lot of videos of, she'll do a lot of like tourist videos, like walking around places, and she read a lot of the Greek myths at one point. She does origami, and she just kind of like does videos of like random stuff that she does, and I think she's great. I think it's YANGHAIYING. If I remember, I will try and tag her in the bottom, although I'm pretty sure. Oops. I dropped my hair ties. I'm pretty sure if you see my channel, you'll already know her channel because she's much larger than I am. But another good channel, one that is the reason I actually was like, okay, I'm gonna film today, is Ekal ASMR, which is EKAL ASMR. He's this nice French guy, and he does a lot of shorter videos, which I kind of like that format, because for me personally, when I listen to ASMR at night, I like to find a super tingly video that's about 5 minutes long, which gets me right about ready for sleep. And then I'll put on like a much longer video, like a bedtime story, or I like ASMR Historian with his deep dives. Although recently his topics have been so interesting that I've saved them to listen to when I'm working on the sewing machine, so I can like actually pay attention, because his topics are like top notch. And so with Ekal, his videos are more of a short format, so I really like that, and I'll put that on before I put something longer on for the night. But he was doing a subscribers do ASMR, where like subscribers could submit like a 1 minute video, and he's gonna do like a compilation of them. And I was like, you know what? I never do stuff like that. I've had a bunch of channels I follow do stuff like that, and I just never participated. But I don't know, his channel just seems like so friendly, and I hope that one day, if my channel gets bigger, it's kind of like that, because everyone over there is just so nice and so kind to each other. Like, I've never seen one mean comment in the comment section, and that's just so nice to me. And I really hope one day I can foster a little community like that, because it's weird for me. Like, I'm very, I wouldn't say religious, I guess spiritual is the word. And I a little bit believe in life purpose, but like yes and no. Like, I am a certified Reiki master, but I feel more comfortable working on animals or just people I know. And I've never tried to do virtual Reiki, but also it seems like whenever I bring spiritual stuff onto my channel in particular, I immediately get a lot of hate. So I'm like, maybe that's not what this channel should be for. And in general, my kind of ethos of how I live life is I want to leave everything better than how I found it. Like, I don't have any good examples, but like I just try and do right in everything I do. And so like one of my quote life purposes is on the farm I live at, I do have a bunch of indoor cats. Like 5 of them have this trailer. This is their trailer. I come to hang out, but this is their trailer. And, you know, eventually once my new house is set up and the stuff I'm storing over here can exit, this will also turn into my crafting area, so I can spend more time with them. But I digress. On the farm, we ended up with a little bit of a rat problem, because, you know, horses and goats mean animal feed means rats, and where you have animals around, you can't just poison the rats. So we ended up with a bit of a rat issue, and so I worked with the local humane society and this one lady who was having to leave where she was living, and she had a couple outdoor cats. So I ended up taking in like 10 cats that were either just outdoor cats or like a couple from the Humane Society that contacted me and were like, these cats are feral, we can't adopt them out because no one wants them because they're so feral. We don't know what to do. We're having to consider, you know, alternate options, you know what I mean? If we can't find somewhere for them. I love that bit of cat hair that just went floating by the screen. And so I took them in. And so now there's these cats that were going to spend what little they had left of their time on this world in tiny little cages, have 300 acres to run around on, and they are happy as pie. And since doing that, a couple more cats have shown up, who I didn't recognize. And the only reason I know this is because I found one of them unfortunately passed away in one of the buildings that they hang out in. But they weren't injured, didn't seem sick, not mangy, no mucus everywhere like you can usually tell if a cat is sick. They just looked like old, and where they had passed away was curled up right in front of a little heater, and it wasn't like cold out at this point. I was leaving the heater on because it was dropping to like mid-40s at night, and I'm like, that's not comfy. I wouldn't like that, so I just set it up in case, they wanted to use it, and that's where it was just curled up right in front of this heater. And as sad as it was to find a cat that had passed away, it was a cat, it filled my heart because this is a cat I had never met who came to this place that I had set up because it was safe and it was comfortable. And so that's where it spent its last moments. It chose to come here. And that just made me happy. And so that's kind of I hope that kind of illustrates what I mean by it. It's like I just want to leave things better. Like, if I can do something to make things better, I will. And so with this channel, I know that was a big loop-de-loop. I know. It's the tism. But with this channel, what I want to do is just create a space that people can come and hang out and just be a little bit of an oasis almost. But that's been like, how do I do that? Because a lot of people really like just my ramble videos. But when I ramble, I will admit, I am a bit of a gloomy person, which is contradictive. Like, my tattoos are colorful, my hair is colorful, my trailer is colorful. I love color. The new house I'm building, I have a new old stock 1960s sage green color bathroom set. Like, color, baby, color. But I am gloom. And so when I ramble about things, a lot of what I have to ramble about are where things are going wrong in the world, the state of gestures vaguely. And when things are going well, I don't really have much to say because I don't think too much about it. When things are going well, I'm just like, wow, it's nice, things are nice, and I kind of leave it at that and appreciate the good. My guy. I appreciate the good for what it is, and I don't try and analyze it. Which, I guess that says something there, that I overanalyze the grim, but I don't think very hard about the good. I don't know, there's probably something philosophical there. But where the most comments I was getting that weren't weird were mostly to do more just rambles, and being that I want this channel to be a place of peace, and I had nothing nice to ramble about, I just vanished into the ether. But at the same time, there's a channel that I've mentioned before whose name is constantly changing, so I don't even know it right now, but she's an artist living in the Ukraine, and she vlogs about her art and her music, and then just sometimes will touch a little bit on the goings-on of living in a war zone. And even though it is kind of, she like whispers and it's very relaxing, but I like listening to her channel because I like hearing that perspective of someone living in a situation I'm not familiar with, and I think it gives good insight onto just humanity. I actually had gone to college to be an anthropologist. I wanted to get into archaeology, but cultural anthropology is just so good. So good. I mean, I also love linguistics, but that's another story. But I don't necessarily know if y'all want to hear about my thoughts on the crumbling empire that is America, or the Hitler 2.0 that is currently in power, or any of that. And I also don't know if I want to open this channel up to even more gestures vaguely, you know what I mean? Because I've already opened it up enough to gestures vaguely by speaking about my religious beliefs, and I don't have the emotional bandwidth anymore to deal with people who just talk out of their asses, you know what I mean? They are hateful for the sake of being hateful. And that's it. And you can't have a conversation with these people. You can't debate with these people because there is no logic. You can't be logical with someone. You can't have a logical discussion with someone who isn't being logical, right? So I don't want to open this channel up to that because I've had it, like, my older subscribers might remember there was a little bit of drama before where people were like dogpiling on my channel. And I, again, keep this channel because I like doing it, and I don't want it to become having to play peacemaker or deal with weird comments like that. So if that is something you'd rather I just, make videos talking about whatever, no matter what, I could probably get back to making them more, but I got very much in my head about y'all don't want to hear about what I'm thinking about, so I'm just gonna not. Which, again, I think I've tried to put up posts in the community tab before, but no one really responds to them, so I kind of gave up on that. And like I said, I'm going to be uploading with it a shorter video of inaudible whispering, which is something I haven't really done before. I hope y'all like it, and I have ideas, but it's just the execution right now. And so, that's also the whole thing of being weirded out by my own face on camera, which is why I think I really like the inaudible videos, because I'm like right up there, and I feel like this part of my face looks okay, you know what I mean? I don't like seeing the rest, so it's harder. Like, you'll notice as I'm filming, being raw and emotional here for you, but you'll notice as I'm filming, I'm looking a lot out there. It's because I don't want to see, the chin, the flesh of being human, how dare I? But growing up in a household where I have a 70 almost year old mother still worried about putting on calories, it's inherited. C'est la vie. But I guess I was thinking about cutting this ramble up into 2 sections, but I think I'll just make it one longer one, because that's kind of a little bit about what's been going on with the channel. But I also kind of wanted to update on like some cool stuff that happened. So last weekend, because right now it's Easter and 420 blaze it, but last weekend I actually drove 10 hours back to the state I grew up because my grandmother turned 100. I know, wow. My family has this thing where we're either like dead by 30 or we just don't die, which is only half a joke. My grandmother's mother lived to be like 103, I think. And then my grandfather lived to be 90 something, and my other grandfather on the other side lived to be 90 something, even though he had already lost a leg to diabetes and was like a chronic smoker and, all that good shit. My grandma on the other side also lived to her late 90s and didn't get taken out until the COVID epidemic hit. And I think if that hadn't hit, she probably would have made it to 100. Like, knock on wood that I inherited that part of the genealogy. I got the hair. But so I drove up to my home state for that, and I saw a lot of my family for the first time in nearly a decade. And the last time I'd associated with them was not great. They were really mistreating me. Like, I'm trying to step around it because I don't want to get too personal, but they were really mistreating me, and it was all like one person kind of leading the mistreatment, but they were all enabling, and even beyond enabling, like doing things to facilitate the mistreatment. And one in particular who did some things to try and extend the mistreatment saw me and said, "Wow, no, you look like you're doing good." I'm like, "Yeah, I moved." And he, in that way that I'm sure anyone who has a not so great family knows of, the apologizing without apologizing because they're too good to ever apologize, but they kind of say it with the eyes of like acknowledging where they might have been wrong. And I got that from this person, and it was really weird, kind of vindicating. Like, I told you I was fine, and it was very much a situation of the main person mistreating me was trying to make everyone else think I was crazy, so that they could continue to mistreat me, whereas I was sitting there saying, hey, no, this person's mistreating me, I just want to leave. But because of the way I was reacting to the mistreatment, everyone just looked at me and said, oh, well, you can't be left on your own. You can't be trusted to be on your own. And look at me on my own. So that was interesting. And I got to see an old store I used to visit a lot that's still there. But it was sad because I left my home state right at the pandemic, the pandy. And so I didn't see the fallout of what happened when it was over and everything started to open up. And a lot of the places I wanted to visit, like a piercing shop that my friends used to work at, and like friends, like I'm not like friends with, but like, distant friends with, like friendly, I guess. We hung out. Piercing shop, tattoo shop, that was closed. A clothing store of antique clothing, that was closed. A couple other things I tried to look up that they were just gone. And it was weird, and in a way it no longer, even though it's where I grew up, it no longer felt like where I grew up. And so some of the weird sting I thought I would feel from being out there was just, it didn't happen. I just came back home. And I actually, the worst part of the trip was honestly the fact that I had to take my cat with me, because one of my cats, he has diabetes. And while my mother-in-law is an absolute angel and was watching all my other cats for me, I thought it a little much to say, hey, on top of feeding and watering all these other cats, can you also put this one specific cat in a crate for 30 minutes while it eats its canned food, because all the other cats want to eat the canned food, but only he can have the canned food. And then once he's done eating the canned food, he's going to try and dart under the couch, but don't let him dart under the couch, because you need to catch him and give him insulin. And then once you catch him, you need to jab him, and his skin is really tough, so you're going to have to jab him harder than you think. And then he's going to squirm, and he's going to flail, and he's going to cry, and do that twice a day while we're gone. So I just took him with, and he decidedly was not happy about it. It didn't occur to me until we were already like halfway into the drive that the whole time I've had this cat, he has never been by himself. When I took him in, I already had 3 other cats, and he's never been alone. And so on the drive up, he was pretty quiet, but I think it's because he got car sick. But once we were in the hotel room and he was just by himself, he just cried. He cried for hours on end every night, and I just could not sleep. So we came home, we left at 6 a.m. to drive home, even though that wasn't really necessary, just because he would not stop crying. I'm like, well, if I can't sleep anyway, let's go home. I'm still working my day job, but people have gotten really bad about being really rude for no reason. And so I've had to, I think I've talked about before my go-to phrase of, that was a weird thing to say out loud, or I'm surprised you felt comfortable saying that to me, a stranger. But having, it became more and more common where someone would just say something, and I just have to turn to them and be like, what a weird freaking thing to say out loud, dude, and just walk away. And I had a little bit of a meltdown where I had to leave one day just because customers were being just so rude that I was like, I'm going to scream at someone if I don't leave, and I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go home. And so where I was their head cashier for a while, they've now put me in the back, which is nice. I definitely prefer it. But the only And like they offered me doing truck shift, which I really did like, except I joke that because of my body's issues with pain, I'm like a diesel engine. Once I get going, I'm okay, but it does take me a while to get started. But with the early morning shifts, I being a diesel engine, usually I don't take breaks during my shift. I just work straight through, because the second I sit down, it takes me like 2 hours to get going again, because I'm just in so much pain. Because sitting down lets my body relax, and then all the pain just hits at once. But the early morning shift, they all take the break at the same time, and everyone leaves the building, so I couldn't just opt out of a break. So I couldn't do the truck shift. But they did move me to processing the truck in the back during business hours, so I could just not take a break and just work for my shift. And being in the back, I've been allowed to, we're in the back so we can have our headphones. And so I listened to, this is my point that I'm getting to, I've listened to some really good books. On the car ride to and from my home state, I showed my fiance, or I finished this book with my fiance. It's an audiobook. I think it's the first audiobook I ever listened to, and some of it admittedly did not age well politically, or not politically, more like social rights wise, did not super age well, but I find it forgivable given the context. But it's called A Dirty Job by Christopher Moore, and I think the narrator does an excellent job. It is a piece of art, and I finally got to listen to it with my fiance, and he's one of those people that try and figure out the ending of the book, and every time he thought he had the ending figured out, he like 20 minutes later he'd be like, well, nope, apparently not. It's a really good book. I really enjoy it. And now I'm finally listening to the sequel, which is called A Secondhand Souls, which I've known about for over a decade, and I've just never gotten a chance to listen to. But at work, I listened to, back up. My favorite podcast is Welcome to Night Vale. And so I started really listening to the podcast, but where I recently subscribed to their Patreon, I realized, I can also, like on the Spotify feed, it also gives you their bonus episodes. And I already had 2 of the 3 books, so I was like, okay, I guess I'll bite the bullet. I'll buy the live shows on their Bandcamp. I'll buy the last book I didn't have on Audible, and I will chronologically, and I looked it up, what the chronological order is considered, from start to finish, do it over again, because I think last fall I had caught all the way up with Night Vale, and so what I do when I do that is I don't just wait to listen to an episode at a time, is I just start all over. So, I don't think this is where it's necessarily meant to fit into listening through Night Vale again, but the book, The Faceless Old Woman That Secretly Lives in Your Home, where she first, it's in the arc where they're running, there's the running for the Night Vale mayor, and I think it's actually the episode she's introduced. She says, I've replaced all your books with other books. One of them's my life story, if you're interested. And so I thought, you know what, actually, that is a good spot to listen to this other book that they put out way later, The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home, which is her life story. I don't think it's really applicable to that episode in the same way, but I was like, whatever. I would rather have the background on this character going into my re-listen. So I did that, and it was an amazing book. They say on like their intros that it's like this is their favorite book they've ever written. I'm like, I can honestly see why. It's really good. I was on Goodreads and everybody was giving it like really shit reviews, like, oh, this has nothing to do with Night Vale, like you should have called it something else. There were 2 main complaints. That was one of them, and my response to that one is honestly, who said, I mean, it is a Night Vale book, but it's about a specific character in Night Vale who it's already been canonically in the show acknowledged is ancient. So, like, of course, the whole story is not going to take place in Night Vale if it's the life story of someone who's hundreds and hundreds of years old. Like, that just kind of makes sense. And the other complaint was that, oh, it's historical fiction and you didn't even get the trade routes right. And I'm like, bitch, they put in a country named Luftnarp. I don't think you're in the right. You know what I mean? Like, the whole concept of Night Vale is it's almost like a parallel universe. So, like, of course it's not going to be historically accurate. Whatever. But I digress. I thought it was a wonderful book. I thought it was a work of art. It made me think of a lot of things differently, which was really nice going into I believe I finished it right around the time of the new moon or the full moon, one or the other, and it had some really nice symmetry. And both, and this is where it kind of ties in to something I was talking about earlier, both books, A Dirty Job, I guess Secondhand Souls as well, and The Face of a Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home, talk a lot about life purpose, like what drives a person. And I didn't mean to listen to two books about that simultaneously, but I think it worked out pretty well that's how that happened. But yeah, if y'all are the reading or audiobook type, I recommend audiobook in both these instances because I've read the books, like paperback copies, but I just think the narrators in both instances do such a good job that you just do not get the same experience from just reading the book. And I'm the kind of person who usually prefers to just read a book because I feel like your imagination can just go farther than like hearing an audiobook. But especially the fact that with The Faceless Soul, so the Christopher Moore, A Dirty Job, the narrator does the different voices for the different characters, and it just gives dimensions to the characters that I wouldn't thought about. And with The Dirty Job, it's also funny because the first time I read that, so this can be a really long one. I hope all of you who hoped for a long one like this. Otherwise, I might not do a long one like this again. But A Dirty Job is basically about a guy. I don't want to give too much away, but he's a guy who accidentally becomes a death merchant. Basically someone who like can see that there are souls and objects and sells the objects in a secondhand store. And it's this story of the guy named Charlie Asher in a secondhand store and like all the things that happen around that. But first time I read this book or listened to this book, I was late teens working at an antique store being the weird goth chick. And that is, of course, one of the characters is Lily, the weird goth chick who works in the secondhand store, which I feel like is like canonically in life. I feel like if your secondhand or antique store does not have a weird goth chick who works there, your store's probably shit. But so the first time I listened to the book, I was like, oh my God, I'm so Lily. And then listening to this book around this time where like I did used to have a secondhand store. I don't anymore, but I did. And like all the weird things of being an adult. I think Charlie Asher's character in this book is 32. I'm 28, about to be 29. This time reading through the book, I was like, no, I'm Charlie Asher. Oops. Ouch. But it's a really good book. And then The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home, I recommend listening to because the same person who voices the character on the podcast is reading the book because, again, it's supposed to be her life story. So it really reads as like a monologue, but in a good way. And it's really good. also, again, were one of those things where, like, growing up, I was like, oh, I'm totally Cecil. But now, listening through that, I'm like, oh no, I am the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your home. Oops. But yeah, those are definitely really, really good books. Really good books. And again, I will never stop shouting from the rooftops how much I love Welcome to Night Vale. It's so good. Hopefully, I've got plans to start my here. I'm gonna start a Welcome to Night Vale sleeve to connect down to this eventually. But I think that's all I have to say for now. I hope you all enjoyed this. Let me know if you like these super long rambles. If you do not mind what they're about, or any other thoughts, questions, comments, concerns. Talk to you guys later. Bye.